So now let's talk about an important topic that a lot of people just ignore, which is CORS, which stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. So what is CORS? So this is not going to be a theory course. We're just going to see some examples and then get to work. So CORS is a Node.js package that adds a layer of security to your API/server and limits who can access it or limits who can access a certain route. So in plain English, we have a server. So we just can't allow anyone to just connect to our server. This is not safe and not professional. So we only, like our server, we set up CORS in it in a way that we only allow certain websites to connect with us. So for example, we have our front end, which is, for example, localhost 3000. So we only allow localhost 3000. So if someone comes from another website, I don't know, whatever example, and then try to connect to the server, is gonna see that it's not, allowed, and then it's gonna block it. So it works in a different way, but let's see the example and then I'm gonna explain to you exactly how it works. So now let's take this example. We have a client which is github.com, tries to connect to a server, and the server is configured with CORS that allows only GitHub to connect with it. So the way that it works is simply this way. So the server is configured with CORS and allow github.com. So the client sends a request and then the server sends a response. But in the response, in the header exactly, it adds this property, which is access control allow origin, and adds the website that is configured in CORS to be allowed. So it doesn't block it, but it does send and add this in the header. So what happened is the browser who does the blocking. So the browser, when he get the response, he checks the headers and sees this. When he sees this, he just compares. So the origin we sent from is github.com, and then the allow origin is github.com, so which is the same. So the browser is the one that allows the connection and doesn't block it. So if the server, for example, was like configured the same way, only allows github.com, and we try to connect, for example, google.com, the server is gonna, in their response, is gonna be the same, but the browser is gonna see that the origin we send the request from is google.com, and in the headers it sees in the response that it's only allowed github.com. So then the browser is the one that's gonna block it. So not the server is the one that blocks the request, but another server, but the browser is the one that blocks it. So in another example, we have a server mainsite.com, which only allows, as you see right here, example.com. So when we get the response, it's gonna see the browser that we send it from example.com, and it allows example.com, so it's gonna allow it. In the second example, mainsite.com only allow another site.com. So the browser is going to see we send this from example.com, but the server said in the response that it's only allowed another website, another site.com. So it's different than the one we sent from, so it blocks it. So this is simply how it is. And in this document, we have like a way how to install it and how to use it. I'm going to include this PDF with the course, but now let's get to work and explain a lot of interesting things about CORS, so you know that understand what you're doing, which is something important, that every code you write, you understand what you're doing. So let's get to work. So we're going to start by installing the package. So open the terminal, then npm CORS, 10 seconds or less, and it's going to be installed as you see. Then we're going to import it. So we're going to go const CORS equal. The keyboard is a bit far away from me, so it's gonna hide to write, but now we acquired it. So now we're gonna go to the postman to test something. So I'm gonna go dismissed, and then we're gonna create a collection. I'm gonna call it Facebook, and then inside this I wrote it wrong, but it doesn't matter for now. Let me try again. Now it's right. Then inside this folder we're gonna create all the requests that we're gonna test to a server. So the first one is gonna be test CORS. So we're gonna test the CORS. So it's gonna be to HT, I don't get it right here, so we're gonna write it manually, localhost 8000, and then we're gonna send the request, and we see the same request in the route that we had right here, which is this one. We get the same message, welcome from home. Other thing that we get in the response is headers. So this part is related to the request. You want to send anything in the request, you add it here, but the response is this. In the response, you see there is nothing that relates to the origin or the allowed CORS or anything. So we're going to use now CORS, and we're going to use them in the most easiest way, with the simplest way, which is going to be app.use, which means that we're going to use something. I don't know what to change to this. Then use, and then inside this we're going to have CORS. This is the simplest setup and the most that you've seen, in our examples. And this, what it does, this, you have cores, but you allow every access to your server from anywhere. So now if we went and send the request again, we're gonna see this added access control allow origin, which we talked about, but this time has star, and star means that everyone, allowed to connect to the server. Now we're gonna do a bit of a different setup. So we're gonna go inside the cores, or you can do it right here. So we're gonna go const and then options, const options, and then inside this we're gonna put all the options related to cores. So the first one is origin, and here you decide which origin you want. So for example, I only want the HTTP local host 3000. So I only want this to be excuse me, so I want only this to be allowed. And now if we went to postman and then send request again, sorry, I didn't add it here, so we're gonna add the options to the cores, and then we're gonna send again. And as you see right here, access control allow origin, and we have localhost 3000. That means only localhost 3000 is allowed to connect with us. There's another option that we can add right here, which is called use success status. Let me write this right, because there's a lot of S's. Status, and then it's gonna be 200. So let me check if I write it wrong. Use success status. Now it's right. The reason we use 200 is because some old browsers have a problem using 204. I'm gonna explain. So when you send a request, you get a response status, which is 200. 200 means that everything went okay, right? And then there is another status which is 204. That means everything went okay, but you can't send any data in the body in the response. So for example, I can get the response 200 and can send a message that says everything went all right. But if you send the status 204, you can't send that message. It only sends the headers, and some browsers have problem with that. So we're gonna change the status to request is going to be 200, so all the browsers works. Probably not all, not the modern browsers, some old browsers probably not used right now, or some smart TVs, but you're going to use it to make sure that everything works all right. So this thing, now we only allow this, and I'm going to go farther than this, and we're going to go inside here, and this is our front end. I'm going to open the console, and I'm going to show you how actually it does work. So I'm going to go to front end, I'm going to go to source and then app, and here I'm going to write a simple function. I'm going to call it const, for example get, and it's going to be an async function. An async function, that means that we're going to wait for something, when you have many lines of code and there is a code that requires a bit of time, so we gotta wait for that to finish. We can't just run it and the process is not finished and we go and run the next thing. No, we want to wait till everything is finished right here. So we're gonna send a response to the server, so we're gonna await. So we're gonna have a response, const response, which is gonna use fetch. This is simple JavaScript, http //localhost 8000, and I always write something wrong. And then we're gonna console log the response, and then we're gonna run the function. So now it's gonna wait, and then we're gonna have here a wait, and what it does, it awaits for the response, then it it has the next code running. So now we're gonna see that we get the response. So if we refresh, we see that we get the response and we get 200 as status. So now if we went back to our server and change this, let's go back to the server, and instead of 3000, maybe you have another website, maybe 7000. That means only localhost 7000 is allowed and localhost 3000 is not allowed. So if we refresh again, we're gonna see this problem. As you see, access to fetch at from origin has been blocked by course policy. That means it's not allowed. So we're gonna return it to 3000, and as you see right now, if we refresh, it's gonna be working fine. This is how cores work. There is another thing that you can allow multiple origins, so we're gonna do this also. So I'm gonna remove this. So we're gonna have an array, let's call it allowed, and inside this array we're gonna have all the links that you want to allow to connect to the server. I'm gonna have the main one, which is the front end, our front end, and then we're gonna have some other link. You can add as many as you want. I'm here just to show you how to use them. So we pass to the course the options, so we're gonna have a function that's gonna be called options, and it returns the actual options. So let's gonna see. So we have a function, we're gonna call it options, and it's gonna have a request and then a response. Okay, and inside this we're gonna have a temporary variable, and then we're gonna go and do something. So we're gonna get, first of all, the origin of the request. What's the origin? So for example, we sent a request from the front end to the backend. The origin we sent from is localhost 3000. We're gonna get that from the request header. So we're gonna have let origin is gonna go to the request and then header, and inside this we get the origin. Simple as you like. And then we're gonna check if the origin is inside the allowed array. That means we're gonna allow the connection. If the origin it doesn't exist in the array, we're just gonna decline it. So in our example, localhost 3000 is gonna be included, then the connection is gonna be allowed. But if we have some other link different than this on this, it's not gonna be allowed. So simply how we're gonna do this, so we're gonna have a test, and we're gonna see inside the allowed, we're gonna go to the allowed array, and we're gonna search for. So we're gonna search by index of. Index of is a JavaScript function that search for an element. If it's found it returns the index. If not, it returns -1. So we're gonna search for the origin, and we're gonna see if it's greater than -1 or different than -1, whatever. So in our example we have origin, so when we're gonna search by index of, it's gonna find it and it's gonna be 0. So it's larger than -1. That means it exists in the the allowed array, and then we're gonna allow the connection. So the TMP now is gonna equal what? So the TMP is the options that we're gonna return. So the origin is gonna be true, that means we allow the connection. And then the other time I used success status, yes, that was wrong. So it's gonna be option and then success and then status, and then it's gonna be 200. Else we just not gonna allow the connection. Then the origin you can pass like false on, or just like, let me this TMP and then equal, and then the origin we're gonna be like false, or you can like pass something that doesn't exist, like stupid or whatever you want. So now it's not gonna be allowed, and then we're gonna return. So in the response it returns like the error, which is gonna be null, and then we're gonna return the temp, which is gonna be the options. And this way we choose from this array and see if it does exist, and then allow it. If it doesn't exist, we just don't allow it. Simple as this. So now if we refresh the page on the front end, we get the response normally because the origin we sent from existed in the array. So if we change right here to 4000, we're gonna see now it's not existed in the array, so it's not gonna allow it. Simple as this, and you get the the access denied. So this was like pretty simple. I know I had to do like a full tutorial for the course so you understand actually what you do. So now you have the option to use it the way you want. For me, this is just like a tutorial, so I'm gonna remove this. I'm just gonna go app.use and use course and allow everything, because I'm using it like in the localhost now. If you want to have your own settings or what you're gonna allow or not, you can use that. So I'm gonna change this to use. Sorry for the mistake. So this is done, and next thing we're gonna talk about routes and how to manage them in an efficient way. So see you.